Ephata, be opened. You know, I think you guys probably notice that I have a great love of nature, and that's where I think I got it from my father. When I was growing up, my father was a forester inspector, and he loved the land and loved nature, and so it was a great career for him. But I think he instilled all of that in all of us as children. He was phenomenal. He would take us out into the land, but he helped us appreciate nature and the gift of what nature is to us, a gift from God. But I was always amazed how well he knew. Like he seemed to know every plant and every tree by name. Like he had, and it was like one of those big long names too. Like he knew the real name, right? The Latin or the Greek name. Like I remember once in a field, I was looking, and I saw thistles, and he goes, "Oh, that's a Circinia marcintia," or something like that, some Latin word. I went, "Oh, it looks like a thistle." Yes, that's the real name for a thistle. I went, "Okay, all right." But he had this sense. One of the things he taught us was that how important it was to enter into the nature, not to step away from it, but to lean into it, if you would. He had a great gift. Like he could look at a piece of land and could assess it and its value and how rich it is and where you could plant the best trees. We were into Christmas tree farming, and he would say, "Well, nothing will grow up there. Here's where you need to plant all the Christmas trees." And of course, we would then take expensive soil sampling from all over the field, send it off, and the results would be exactly as Dad said. But to do that, he would walk the land. He would walk the whole land and look, and he would dig down and grab a handful of soil and run it through his hands and smell it and get a sense of it. Sometimes I think he ate it too, but I don't think that was quite that bad. But he had that intimate relationship with the soil and the land that he could really know it and what it could produce. That moving in close is what he really taught us. The older I get, the more I appreciate those lessons that he gave us back then. And, you know, as I now get, I'm trying he was also a gardener. And as I try my hand at gardening, I'm appreciating the difference in the soil and having to mess with the soil a little bit, but also how when you move in close, like a tomato plant is not just a tomato plant. There's, heirlooms, there's early girls, there's purple Cherokee, and an endless list. And even of the heirlooms, there's multiple types of heirlooms. There's not just a tomato. It's a whole variety of tomatoes that you can grow. And some will grow better in this area versus that area, with that soil versus this soil. And there's a great sense when you move in close to understand nature, understand what we're eating, understand what we have before us, the great gift that is before us. The reason why I bring that up is I don't think that's true only of sort of nature and the plants, but I think it's also true of you and I, of us, that if we stand back at a distance, we really can't know each other. Not in any real way. But it's only when we move in close, when we get close and we come to hear each other and experience each other, do we really start to understand each other. It's hard to hate up close. It's one of those things, the more you move in, the more you realize somebody else's life and what is entailed in it. In today's gospel, Jesus moves in close with this deaf and mute man. He moves in real close. And it's in Mark's gospel, it's one of the features of his gospel. And Jesus just doesn't say, be healed or be opened, in this case, ephata. He sticks his fingers in his ears. He puts his spittle on his tongue. I mean, that's moving in pretty close. You got to admit, right? That's all the way in. You got to fingers in the ear, right? Like he is intimately engage in. And it's ultimately what Jesus did with his humanity, taking on humanity. He didn't just stand from the distance. He became one of us. He moved in close. And then he associated with us. He spent time, and most especially those who were on the edges, who were disenfranchised, the wounded, the sinners, the prostitutes, the orphans, the widows. These are the ones he moved in close to because they felt the furthest away. And what Pope Francis calls the existential peripheries, the peripheries of our society where we need to embrace. And what Pope Francis is calling us to is this a culture of encounter. I might suggest as a culture of close encounters, that we're called to move in, to listen to each other's stories. Because it's only when we move closer and we hear that we can understand the stories of each other's lives. I mean, if I stand at a distance, I can't hear you. But if I move in close and I can hear your story, then I know, don't I? Huh? Only when I can move in and understand and hear your story. Only when I move in can I start to really understand your story and the layers and the complexities of it. That when I move in, I understand that you're dealing with a loved one who is at home and sick, and how a struggle that has been. A parent who is dying, and the dementia that goes with that, and how hard that is. It's only when I move in close do I can understand how the ravages of age is taking upon your body and how hard it is for you as you slow down to adjust to this slow. Or I move in and I listen and hear the struggle you have with your young children with certain learning disabilities and the struggle they have at school. Only when I move in can I begin to understand the close encounter. Only then are my ears open. Only then can I really hear. You see, here's the challenge. Is I think we've got to do that for each other in our community here. Is to have a culture of encounter here where we really don't just stand at a distance, say hello to each other, but move in and listen and let them know that they matter and their story matters. And if we could do that for each other, I think that will make a huge difference. But we need to do it more than just for us. We need to also move in and close encounter with others, those who feel most disenfranchised, the divorced and remarried, the LGBTQ community, the elderly who feel often cut off, put off to the side, no longer useful in our society, or maybe the immigrant who no longer feels welcome, who feels on the edge of society, or the homeless person who truly feels nameless because no one listens to their story. You see, we are called to create a culture of encounter, to be open. You see, the Lord promises that He moves in close to us and becomes one of us. And He brings healing to our ailments. And then we are called to do the same for others. And the only way we can do that is if we move in close, to a close encounter. And in doing so, we will hear the story. We will see who they are. We will come to love them for who they are and not how we judge them. My friends, today, as we come to receive Christ, we come also to become Christ to others, to be the healer of ailments, And how we do that is by moving in close, a close encounter, and to be open, ephata.